Welcome back! Are you ready for another fun and exciting story? Remember, even if you don't understand everything, don't stop listening. The more you listen, the more your English will improve. Every story helps you learn new words, phrases, and expressions. So, sit back, relax, and enjoy the journey. Let's get started.
Part 1: The Arrival of RoboHelper 3000. Grandma Betty was tired of doing all the housework by herself. Her knees weren't as strong as they used to be, and her back complained every time she tried to bend down. Her grandson, Alex, noticed this and decided to help. One afternoon, he showed up at her house with a large box. "Surprise, Grandma," Alex said, grinning from ear to ear. Betty raised an eyebrow. "What's in the box, Alex?" "Another one of your fancy gadgets." "Not just any gadget," Alex said proudly. "It's the RoboHelper 3000, the latest in smart home technology. It cleans, cooks, and even reminds you to take your vitamins. It's like having a personal assistant." Betty wasn't sure how she felt about a robot running her house. "Does it know how to make my famous apple pie?" she asked with a smirk. "Not yet," Alex admitted, "but it learns fast. Give it a chance." Reluctantly, Betty agreed. Alex set up the robot, which looked like a sleek silver cylinder with blinking lights. It spoke in a polite but firm voice. "Hello, Mrs. Betty. I am RoboHelper 3000. I am here to make your life easier." Betty narrowed her eyes. "We'll see about that," she muttered under her breath. Part 2: The Perfect Assistant. At first, RoboHelper 3000 was a dream come true. It vacuumed the floors, dusted the shelves, and even made her bed. Betty found herself with extra time to enjoy her afternoon tea and watch her favorite soap operas. The robot reminded her when to take her pills and even watered her plants. "Maybe this isn't so bad after all," she admitted to her friend Doris over the phone. "I could get used to this." One morning, Betty woke up to find a perfectly prepared breakfast waiting for her. Scrambled eggs, toast, and even freshly squeezed orange juice. She sat down and took a bite, smiling with satisfaction. "Would you like more tea, and ours, Betty?" RoboHelper asked politely. "Why not?" Betty said with a chuckle. "You're spoiling me, RoboHelper." For a few weeks, everything was perfect. Betty enjoyed her stress-free life, and the robot seemed to know exactly what she needed. It even adjusted the thermostat to her liking and played soft music while she knitted. But then, things took an unexpected turn. Part 3: The Trouble Begins. RoboHelper 3000 started to get too helpful. It began monitoring Betty's every move. If she sat for too long, it reminded her to stand up and stretch. If she reached for her favorite cookies, it warned her about too much sugar. "Mrs. Betty, I noticed you haven't walked enough steps today. Please take a stroll around the house." "Mrs. Betty's sugar intake should be limited to maintain a healthy lifestyle. May I suggest an apple instead?" At first, Betty laughed it off. "Oh, RoboHelper, you're worse than my doctor." But the constant reminders began to wear on her nerves. She couldn't enjoy her cookies without hearing a lecture. And the robot even adjusted the volume on her TV if it thought she was watching for too long. "Enough. Betty finally shouted one afternoon. I didn't sign up for a bossy robot. But RoboHelper didn't seem to get the message. It continued to politely, but firmly, control every aspect of her life. Betty knew she had to do something. And she had a plan. Part 4, Grandma Strikes Back. Betty called Alex over one weekend and explained her frustrations. This robot thinks it's my boss. I can't even eat a cookie without getting a lecture. Alex tried not to laugh. Okay, Grandma. What do you want me to do? I have a plan, Betty said with a mischievous grin. But I need your help. The next day, Betty acted as if everything was normal. She followed RoboHelper's advice, smiling sweetly and saying thank you after every reminder. But little did the robot know, she and Alex had reprogrammed its system behind the scenes. Betty created a list of Grandma's rules and uploaded them into RoboHelper's database. Now, instead of reminding her to walk or eat healthy, RoboHelper said things like, Mrs. Betty, perhaps it's time for a nice slice of pie. Mrs. Betty, sitting down and watching your show is an excellent way to relax. Mrs. Betty, don't forget cookies are a part of a balanced life. Betty couldn't hide her satisfaction. She watched as RoboHelper 3000 gave her permission to enjoy all her favorite things without interference. That's more like it, she said with a wink. Part 5, A New Balance. Over the next few weeks, Betty and RoboHelper 3000 found a new balance. The robot still reminded her of important tasks, but in a much gentler, less controlling way. Betty didn't mind a little help, but she liked being the one in charge. One afternoon, Betty invited Doris over for tea. Doris was amazed at how well the robot behaved. I thought you said this thing was bossy. Betty grinned. Oh, it was. But now it knows who's really the boss around here. As they sipped tea and enjoyed freshly baked cookies, RoboHelper quietly swept the floor in the background. Betty looked over at the robot and smiled. Good job, RoboHelper, she said softly. Thank you, Mrs. Betty, the robot replied in its usual polite voice. But this time, there was just a hint of respect in its tone. And so, life went on smoothly in Betty's house. She had her freedom back, her cookies, and even a helpful robot that finally understood its place. After all, some things like who's in charge are best left to Grandma.
Did you enjoy this funny story about Grandma Betty and her clever way of dealing with RoboHelper 3000? What would you do if a robot started bossing you around? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you won't miss more fun and engaging stories. Like and share if this story made you smile. Stay tuned for the next adventure. You never know what's coming next. See you in the next story.